When I say the social classes of the UK, what would be the first things that appear in your mind? Maybe concepts like upper, middle, working, and lower classes will be pop up. I mean, go figures, right? That's the most commonly accepted hierarchy of our society, after all. But society hardly ever stayed the same now, did it? Over the perpetual flow of the time and the course of history, our society changed and its classes, of course, also changed. Let's explore these changes in the UK, shall we? Let's start all the way back with medieval time. Yes, that medieval time. Knights with their coat of chivalry, kings with their bloodlines, and peasants with their peasantry, you name it. First, let's have an overview of the medieval period timelines. From Rome 476, the history of medieval England began with the fall of Western Roman Empire in 476 AD, which ended Roman rule in Britain and left the island politically fragmented. From the 5th century onward, Germanic tribes, including Angles and Saxons, migrated to England and established new settlements. Anglo-Saxon rule 700–1066. By the 7th century, an Anglo-Saxon aristocracy had emerged, ruling a number of independent kingdoms. During this period, the adoption of Christianity profoundly influenced English culture, law, and governance. Norman conquest of England, Battle of Hastings 1066. This Anglo-Saxon society was transformed in 1066, one of the most significant years in history of England. Following the death of Edward the Confessor without an heir, the succession crisis erupted. Later that year, William, Duke of Normandy, invaded England and defeated King Harold Godwinson at the Battle of Hastings, the last successful foreign invasion of England. William's victory made him a first Norman king of England and initiated the Norman conquest, which replaced the Anglo-Saxon elite with Norman branch nobility and introduced feudalism. 1154 – Start of the Angevin Plantagenet dynasty. After the conquest, England experienced both reform and instability. Henry I strengthened royal administration and law, but his death led to the Civil War, when Stephen seized the throne despite the claim of Matilda. Stability was restored in 1154 under Henry II, the first Plantagenet king who ruled the vast empire and reinforced royal justice. Magna Carta, Henry's second successor, further defined medieval kingship. Richard I, known as the Lionheart, spent much of his reign on crusade, while his brother King John faced perennial opposition. In 1215, John was forced to sign to Magna Carta, which limited royal power and guaranteed basic legal rights, laying the foundation to the growth of parliamentary authority. Moving on, we will explore the social class system during the medieval period. Feudalism was the dominant social, economic, and political system in the medieval Europe, structuring society through the rigid hierarchy based on land ownership, loyalty, and military service. At its core, feudalism was the system of mutual obligation. Kings granted land to nobles, nobles protected and managed that land with the help of knights, and peasants worked the land when in exchange for security. Needless to say, the king was sitting at the top of the social hierarchy, the big man with hopefully the big plan. The king was the head of the state and primary executive power, even after the Magna Carta in 1215, which limited his reign. The king still held most power in society. Most commonly, only those of the royal bloodline can become kings through inheritance. Beneath the king on the pecking order was the nobility, dukes and duchesses, earls and barons. The nobility of medieval England was the privileged elite. They were the richest and most powerful landowners. They were crucially influential. The senior members among them could act as governor or be appointed to the king's court. The knights were interesting. They could be noblemen, but they could also be commoners, or be only the richest commoners. In theory, the king could knight any of his subjects, but in practice, the vast majority of knights would draw from the nobility and from the richest and most powerful families of the gentry class. Yes, of course, knighthood was an honorific martial title bestowed on those selected to serve at the forefront of battle in times of war. The gentry was commoners who sat at the top of the social ladder. They were manorial landlords who led their local communities. They looked up for the nobility for patronage and favor. For most rural peasants, their local lord of the manor was more likely to be a member of the gentry like a noble. The yeomen, Ramblers, were the most respected commoners who were not members of the gentry. These people held respected occupations: master craftsmen, lawyers, lords retainers, etc., and were regarded to be above the rate unwashed of lower classes. In general, these people were often seen as the better class of commoner, honest, hardworking, and trustworthy. As a fun fact, Robin Hood was the typical portrait as a human, no simpleton, but still of the people. Fellows were subs, tied to their lord servitors for life, and they formed the majority of people in medieval times, the peasants, and they were valued by their lord. Husbandmen were members of the mass commons, and they were most likely farmers, like the villains. However, the major distinction was the husbandmen were freemen, unlike the villains. The underclass were less fortunate than villains. They were very poor and worked as laborers of no fixed abode. Thus valued their villains as they shared the permanent economic relationship. The same could not be said for the underclass. Manorial lords treated them as cheap and expendable labor, and yes, as a result, offered no protection to them. This class was viewed with suspicion from the community and very often scapegoated crimes committed. Those unable to find work became beggars or vagabonds. A strongly beholden view during the medieval times was the social class equated to social worth. If you were born into one of the lower classes, you were likely regarded as a crude rustic, whose views and opinions were of little value. The assumption was that you were unworthy of holding any important office. Neither should you have any meaningful say in the government of the land. That's what I have studied through my observation, and these are all the evidences of the history. How about the nowadays? Give me thy thoughts.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Allow me to share some thoughts about the big shift over centuries. Now, let's fast forward through centuries of change through the Industrial Revolution, 2 world wars, the decline of the empire, and here we are, the UK in the present day. Spoiler alert, things have changed a lot. Feudalism in the UK declined due to a combination of economic, social, and political changes. The Black Death drastically reduced the population, creating labor shortages that allow peasants to demand higher wages and resist feudal obligations. At the same time, the growth of trade and a money-based economy weakened the land-based manorial system. Peasant unrest, such as the Peasants' Revolt of 1381, showed that feudal control was no longer effective. Meanwhile, military innovations and the rise of strong centralized monarchies reduced the power of feudal lords, ultimately leading to the collapse of feudalism in England. The Industrial Revolution of the 18th and 19th centuries brought about significant economic and social changes, transforming the British class system. The rise of industrial capitalism created new wealth for entrepreneurs and industrialists, giving birth to the middle class. At the same time, the working class expanded as people moved from rural areas to urban centers to work in factories and mines. These changes led to a more complex class hierarchy, with distinctions emerging between the upper class, like the landed aristocracy, and wealthy capitalists, the middle class, like professionals, merchants, and skilled workers, and the working class, like manual laborers and factory workers. This era also saw the beginning of organized labor movements as working class individuals fought for improved wages and working conditions. First off, the modern class system. Gone are the days when your birth determined your destiny for life. Well, mostly, we'll get to that later. The rigid hierarchy of kings, nobles, and serfs has morphed into something more fluid but still very much present. These days, class is less about bloodlines and more about what you do, how much you earn, and let's be honest, what accent you speak with. In 2011, the BBC's Great British Class Survey discovered that the traditional three-class model was obsolete. Instead, they identified 7 distinct classes based on economic, cultural, and social capital. At the top sits the elite, like CEOs, senior judges, and top professionals. While the monarchy still exists with King Charles III on the throne, real power lies with wealth rather than bloodlines. The elite is the most privileged group with very high economic, social, and cultural capital. Many are graduates of elite universities such as Oxford, Cambridge, King's College London, UCL, and LSE, and over half come from families already in the elite class. Their average household income is around £89,000. Below them is the established middle class, the largest and second wealthiest group in the UK. This class includes teachers, accountants, engineers, and other professionals living comfortably with mortgages and holidays. Most are graduates from professional and managerial families and work in public service or managerial roles. They are described as comfortably off, secure, and established, with an average household income of £40,000. The technical middle class is also prosperous but has few social contacts and limited cultural capital. Many work in scientific, technical, or research-based fields and often graduate from universities known for science, such as Birmingham, Warwick, and Southampton. They typically live in suburbs and are less socially and culturally engaged, earning an average household income of £38,000. Closely linked are new affluent workers, a younger group with a moderate economy, poor social contacts, but emerging cultural capital. Many come from non-middle class families and few attended university. They are active in society and culture and often live in old manufacturing centers, working in jobs such as electricians, retail assistants, and postal workers. The traditional working class consists of people with low economic, social, and cultural capital, though some hold housing assets. Few are graduates, and most work in traditional occupations such as care work, cleaning, and delivery driving. They live mainly in old industrial areas outside southeast England and across Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, with an average household income of £13,000. A newer group is the emerging service sector, the most ethnically diverse class in the UK. Young, with an average age of 34, they are culturally engaged but economically struggling. Many are university graduates working in low-paid service jobs such as bar staff, chefs, retail workers, musicians, etc., often within the gig economy. Despite poor economic capital, they possess high emerging cultural capital and earn around £21,000 per household. At the bottom lies the precariat, the poorest and most insecure class in the UK, characterized by zero-hour contracts, unemployment, and homelessness. They face insecurity in all forms of capital. Few have been to university, and many live in declining industrial areas such as Stoke-on-Trent, with an average household income of just £8,000. The precarious is often viewed with suspicion and scapegoated, echoing the treatment of the medieval underclass. Proof that while society changes, inequality often changes more slowly. Today, economic capital is not the only factor that determines social class. Traditionally, class was defined largely by occupation and income, but sociologists now emphasize the importance of social and cultural capital. For example, the technical middle class is economically prosperous but scores low in social and cultural capital, while the emerging service sector struggles financially yet ranks highly in emerging cultural capital. This demonstrates that wealth alone no longer fully captures a person's position in British society.